So today's topic is quite interesting and it might get a bit controversial if you take what I say to your heart. Like, don't generalize this to your startup or to your big company. So every now and then I have this one message in my inbox which is, I have an offer from a startup, I have an offer from a big company. कहाँ जाऊँ? And I'm like, मैं कैसे बताऊँ? I don't even know you. How can I take this call on your behalf? So for that reason, what I'll be doing is I'll be talking about this particular topic in depth. I'll be talking about structure, stability, learning opportunities, scope, career growth, work-life balance, culture. So I'll be talking about all of these points. How are they in a big company and how are they in a startup? So without waiting, let's get started with the first one, which is structure. In most of the big companies, very, very well defined. SD1, SD2, SD3. SD1 to SD2, 2 to 3 years or 1.5 years to 3 years. SD2 to SD3, 3 to 4 years or 2.5 years to 4 years. It's very well defined in bigger companies. Talk about a startup, you don't know. I've seen people who are extremely talented be a tech lead in 1 year. That is never going to happen in a big company. You can write that down. Perfect. So that was about the structure, very well defined in a big company. Stability. In a big company, the job is quite stable. Again, if you take the layoffs into account, you might have a point to make, but then I'm talking overall. Like overall, the last couple of decades, I think the software engineering jobs in a big company is much stable than working in a startup if you're performing well, right? In a startup, it is stable, but then if your startup is not performing well, or if the startup didn't get the fundings it expected, they end up doing a lot more layoffs, silent layoffs, which you might not hear of. So that was about stability. So before I move ahead in the video, let me introduce you to Cryo.do. Now this is world's first experience-based and learning platform for software engineers. One thing that I absolutely love about them is a learn by doing approach. This is not a typical course. Rather, it's a learning experience. So when you join their curriculum, what happens is you'll be learning as if you're working as a software engineer at Netflix, Airbnb, Amazon. And you'll be building high scalable apps like Netflix, Airbnb, Amazon, Book My Show, etc. And you'll have mentors from top MNCs like Walmart, Amazon, Microsoft. Till date, Cryo has placed over 1,300 plus people at startups like Cred, urban companies at MNCs like Microsoft, Walmart, etc. At the end of the curriculum, you'll have a very, very solid GitHub profile with some amazing projects. So what you can do is you can check out their SD fellowship program. So over there, they have an in-depth system design and data structure algorithms curriculum tailored to interviews. Along with that, you get a chance to select if you want to opt for backend or for full stack. So what you can do is you can head over to their website via the link and you can try them out by starting your free trial. You can have that entire experience. It's absolutely free. So you can have it on a trial basis. The link will be in the description. Make sure you check them out. Let's come to the next point, which is the learning opportunities. I'll be very, very brutal on this. Learning opportunities at a big company is absolute shit. I do talk to people who work at startups. Dude, they have some amazing set of knowledge, which people working at bigger companies, they don't have that wider scope of knowledge. They're very into deep at a certain topic. Because at bigger companies, you don't get to work at a lot of things. You work at a certain thing and you go very deep into it. But when you talk about a startup, they get to work on a lot of things and they do go into depth. So learning wise, it's very exponential in a startup, whereas in a big company, it's a linear curve. No offense, it's a linear curve. Again, people might not agree with me, but again, it is something which I'm saying, taking everything into account. There might be certain companies, might be certain teams where you're learning a lot. That's not the overall scenario. What about the scope of work? Now, in big companies, you get to work, but you might not get to work on something which ends up going into production tomorrow. Whereas in a startup, you might get to work on a feature that you have called on, like you have decided that this is a feature I want and people agreed in your team and you coded it tonight and it might go tomorrow live and people are using it. And the next day you might be scrapping it off as well. In a big company, you don't get to call on the feature. There are other people who do it. They do the market research, they decide on the feature, and then you work on the feature, and then it goes live, and then there's a product team which takes over. So on the scope of work, you get a lot more to call on in a startup. In a big company, you're very chill, you don't do a lot of things. तुम्हें कोई आता है, someone comes up and says कि do it, you do it, and it goes live. The scope of work, I think, in startup, you get to work on a lot more things. Perfect. Let's come to the next thing. Career growth and advancement. Now, talk about career growth. It's very subjective. I cannot pinpoint this. I know one thing for sure, in 10 years down the line, if I'm working at a big company, I'll be at a certain position. I'll be having a certain salary. I'm very sure about this. Now, at a startup, you're not very sure because you're not sure about of the startup. Unless until it's a big size startup like a Zomato, Swiggy, you cannot call it ki 10 years down the line, I'll be at this position in this company if I continue. So career growth wise, you're not sure, but you can make a lot of money if you're working in a startup. If your startup booms, you can actually make a lot of money. But if a startup goes down, you can actually end up making nothing because the ESOPs that they offer, that might be of no value. Whereas in a big company, you're sure that the shares or the stocks that you got, in 10 years down the line, even if you take the average growth, you'll still end up making money. So the probability of you making money, probability is slightly higher, not slightly, actually is more higher in a bigger company. The risk factor is high in a startup, but whatever probability, like even if 1 out of 10 people make it big in startup, they make it really big, really, really big. So that's something that you'll have to take a call on. What about advancement in terms of your personal growth? In terms of personal growth, I feel like it's much better in bigger companies because they are more formal. So you're learning a lot more things formally. You know how to do presentations, which actually matters. A lot of people don't understand that. There are peer reviews which happens. There are performance reviews which happen. So on a personal front, you develop a lot. Whereas in a startup, there are things happen, but they're very informally. Even if someone is giving you a performance review, they're like, ye tu acha nahi kar raha, sahi kar lena. But in a big company, it's so well structured that you will have to work on it. Otherwise, it might impact your ratings. It might impact a lot of other things. I'll say in terms of advancement, because the bigger companies have tested methods, it works out very well in terms of your career. Startups, again, learning wise, agar tum dekhoge, you might scale. But I'm just talking in a general perspective. Let's talk about the next part, which is an interesting one actually. Work-life balance. I'll say if I take majority of the bigger companies, it's better. They have a login time. Most of them have a log off time. So you're kind of free, mentally free after a certain time. You're mentally free during your weekends because there's a on-call team or there's a different team which handles production issues. But when it comes to a startup, you are everything. Yes, you're everything. You're dealing with literally, you are the SRE, you are the SD, literally everything. So even if something breaks on Saturday, you're the one who's fixing it. There's no log of time. You'll just sit in their office and they're just chilling out on a beanbag, working with their founder directly. So in that perspective, it's amazing because you're getting to work with the founder. But if you have a personal life which you want to enjoy, this is where I doubt you will be. So it depends what you want to take. If you want to have that log off time, you miss out on working with bigger people, the founders, because I don't get to meet Sundar Pichai for a reason, right? I don't get to meet the people who are on the higher ladder maybe once in a while. But at a startup, you get to meet literally everyone because everyone is walking around the office. You can just say hi. That is something which is great. In terms of culture, as I defined, it's quite informal in the startups, whereas in bigger companies, everything is formal. Even if I have to schedule a call with someone, I'll have to block his or block her calendar. So everything is quite formal. Most of the people don't meet outside. They have this wonderful boundary where they know this is their office life and this is their outside life. Whereas in a startup, these people are your family. These people are your everything because you spend so much of time over there. You literally are there all of the time. So it's for you to decide. Which one is better for you? Again, depends on your personal goals, preferences, where you want to see yourself in 10 years. So it is completely your choice. So now the burning question, which one is better for you, is something I cannot answer. I can answer that for myself. I always wanted to work in a bigger company. The reason being very simple. I want a log of time. I want to get detached so that I have a personal time. I can do whatever I wish to, and I do it. I'm recording this video, right? Which I feel if I would have joined a startup would not have been possible. So that was my personal preference. So depending on your personal preference, personal goal, career objective in the next 5 years, take that call. You have all your pointers. Take that call and consider discussing this with your parents as well. And I'll be ending up this video, but what I'll ask you to do is share your experiences in the comments and please don't fight out कि तूने ये गलत बोला. Just tell me कि तुम्हारे startup में ये नहीं होता, तुम्हारे बड़े, like in your bigger company it doesn't happen. I'll sportingly take it, but don't come up and say कि तूने गलत बोला, because whatever I said that on a very general perspective. It is not targeted to the company that you work at. Got it? So if you're still now watching, please do consider giving us a like. And if you haven't checked out Take You Forward, please do consider checking out Take You Forward channel as well. So with this, I'll be wrapping up. But if you haven't checked out Cryo.do, the link will be in the description. So with this, I'll be wrapping up this video. Let's meet in some other video. Till then, bye-bye. Take care.